Hello. I am Tutor Nathan, your virtual personal English tutor, and thank you for joining me today. Today we will be learning what cleft sentences are and how to use them in sentences. If you enjoy this video and want to learn more about the English language, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when a new video is posted. It would mean a lot to me. So now let's look at what cleft sentences are. First, let's look at what the word cleft means so we can understand the meaning a little better. Cleft means something that is split in two. Now we know what a cleft is, let's look at what is a cleft sentence. A cleft sentence is a sentence where a part of the sentence is moved from its usual position to another part in order to add extra emphasis, or in other words more meaning or feeling to that part of the sentence. We will now look at some examples of cleft sentences and what they might mean. We'll get into more detail later on in this video. The first sample sentence says, "It was Mia that left the lights on." So we can see here, someone might have been asking who left the lights on or didn't turn them off, and the answer without the emphasis on Mia might have been. In the second sample sentence, "It is humans that keep warming the planet." In this sentence the emphasis is being put on humans. In the last sentence, "What I want is some cake." This is an example of a different type of cleft sentence from the other two which we will be covered later in this video, but here the emphasis is being put on I. Now we will go into the different types of cleft sentences. Now we will talk about it sentences. This is probably the most common type for cleft sentences as well as being the easiest to learn. We form it sentences by starting the sentence with it and then followed by a be verb then subject and lastly the relative clause, usually using the words that, which, and when. Now let's take a look at some example sentences to get a better look at how to form it cleft sentences. In the first sentence, "It was me that put the fan on." You can see exactly how the form for it cleft sentences are to be formed, with it in the beginning and then your be verb, which they used, was followed by the subject me and lastly the relative clause that put the fan on. In the second sentence, "It was the dog that got into the trash last night." Again you can see how we form the sentence with it in the beginning followed by the be verb and then subject and lastly the relative clause. You should be able to see the pattern now in the third sentence. When we use it cleft sentences, it is possible to use other pronouns in the place of it. However, the sentence form will stay the same as you would use the word it. The pronouns that you can use for it can include those, that, and their. Let us look at this first example sentence and see how you can replace it. "That is my pen you borrowed." As you can see, the word that is replaced it in this sentence and the rest of the way you form the sentence stays the same as if you used the word it. Can you make some it cleft sentences using the word it or some other pronouns? This is another way how we can make cleft sentences, and that is by using WH words by putting the old information at the beginning of the sentence and not at the end. The first WH form we will talk about is using the word what. The way we form a cleft sentence using the word what is like this: you start off with a what clause and then use a be verb and next is the emphasized phrase. Let's look at this example sentence. "What went badly was that the guests didn't like the music." Here you can see, as the rules say, the first part of the sentence is a what clause. Then it is followed by a be verb and lastly followed by the emphasized phrase. In the second sentence example you can see is that the sentence form doesn't change either, or in the third sentence example. We can also use happen after what to emphasize an activity or action with some sort of consequence. We can make the sentence form with happen in it by placing what in the beginning, followed by happen, next comes that, and then lastly comes the clause to emphasize the activity or action. Let's take a look at the second example sentence. "What happened is we got very lucky." As you can see, this might be in response to either something good or bad that happened to the speaker in the past. The structure of the sentence is as follows: what plus happened plus that plus the clause to emphasize the action or activity that is a consequence of the previous action. In the third example sentence, the sentence form is the same except they are talking about an event that is going to happen either now or in the near future. Have you ever had to use sentences like these before? We can also use the word what to emphasize actions themselves in cleft sentences. In order to do that, we must know what the correct sentence form is. The form we use for this is what then noun phrase followed by do and be and finally to plus infinitive. Now we'll see in example 3 how to use that it in a sentence. "What she did was make time for her family." We can see that the emphasized action is make time for her family and that the form was used in the sentence And in response to maybe something like someone wondering why she isn't working as much lately, for example, when the non-cleft sentence is she made time for her family. Now that you know how to make sentences from all kinds of cleft sentences, how many can you make? We can also start our sentences using the word all in cleft sentences. We use all when we are talking about some sort of wholeness or completion in the action. We can form these by placing the word all in the beginning of the sentence and then followed by a noun phrase and the verb be then rest of the sentence emphasizing the action. We can see that in the second example sentence, all they did was practice and won the game. We can see that the emphasized action is practice and won the game, while all they is talking about the team themselves. How would you use all in a cleft sentence? We can use place, where, time, when, reason, why cleft in sentences. We can use these when we are placing emphasis on a time, place, or reason. We can use those words to replace where, when, and why in the sentences that we learned earlier in this video. You can see how they replaced where, when, and why in the example sentences below. Can you think of any other sentences using place where, time when, or reason why? We can use it was, is, not, until, that, and it was, is, only, when, that in cleft sentences when we are talking about placing an emphasis on time. You can see from the example sentences that we would use the rules that we learned earlier in this video using the cleft sentences. Is there a time in your life that you can think of where you could use this form in cleft sentence? If you made it to the end, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and comment down below. It would really mean a lot to me if you did. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you and have a great day.